Hey, my name's James Nicholson and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I want to talk about something that doesn't really make much sense to me. And that's the fact that the activist group, Generation Rent, are pushing the government. They're lobbying the government. And in fact, they could be the reason why the government's considering it at all. And that is the fact that they are looking to push landlords to pay national insurance. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what outcomes that might have for tenants. Is it good for tenants if landlords pay national insurance, or is it bad for tenants if they pay national insurance? We're going to talk about all of that in this video. If you're new around here and you haven't done it already, do make sure you subscribe to the channel over there and hit that bell notification. We're on the way to 50,000 subscribers, and by subscribing, you'll get all the latest house price news, interest rate news, property news, and much, much more. And let's get some views on this video so people are aware on what's going on. The easy way to do that is simple. Smash like, tickle like, do something to that like button. That really helps with the YouTube algorithm, and that really has helped the channel grow. So thanks to everyone that does that. So, Generation Rent, I hadn't heard about until about a year ago, and now I hear about them all the time. In fact, they're similar to Shelter. So their goal is to give tenants a better living standard, which is good and admirable, and they do that by lobbying government to push tenants' needs through to government. And so one of the things that they've been doing in the last few months, in fact in the last 9 months or so, is pushing the government to charge landlords, not tenants, to charge the landlords national insurance on their income. Now, here's why you've got to consider why this might be bad for tenants. Now, ultimately, any cost that landlords incur does normally increase rents, and that's proven over time. And right now, there's a massive rental shortage at the moment. We've seen lots of people leaving the market. In fact, I've done videos for a couple of years now where we've been talking about as many as 30% of landlords already have quit the market. And HMRC did a survey of landlords, and they found out that as many as 50% of landlords are considering leaving the market still. And when we make content on this channel, a lot of existing landlords say that's the straw that broke the camel's back. For me, I'm leaving. And that could be around things like the EPCs, the energy performance certificates. Getting forced to get your property to a level C could cost you over £15,000. That's mainly meaning some landlords are quitting. You've got the renters' rights bill, the fact that you can't do a no-fault eviction anymore once that passes. I've done a video this week where we've looked at the waiting time to get a court summons done, the process done, has increased recently. It's now over 8 months. If you get rid of Section 21, that's going to go up considerably. I guarantee you. I believe that if you get rid of Section 21 and then the only option is to do a Section 8, I'm certain that it will take over a year for a landlord to get their property back when they're not getting paid rent. You've got councils as well. We did a video yesterday, a very popular video, where a council was seized 18 of one landlord's properties. And if you think about that, if their rent is only if their mortgage is only £500 a month, they're losing £9,000 there. If the rent, sorry, is only is 500, they're losing 9,000. But I bet it's considerably more. They've got to pay the mortgages still. They've got to do the repairs still. That sort of stuff is happening due to selective licensing. So there's a lot of anti-landlord stuff. And so by landlords leaving the market, what you're doing is shrinking the rental supply. I've talked about previously in areas in Scotland, Edinburgh, and as an example, when a property goes up for rent, as many as 200 people apply for that property. Now, you might be the best credit-worthy person in the world, have a great job, have lots of savings. Even then, you're a needle in a haystack. It's very hard to get the viewing and see the property. In fact, viewings often in Scotland are block viewings where 20, 30 people look at a property at the same time. Some of you have confirmed that that's the case already in London. So people have commented on the channel and said in London, 100 people are applying for properties, for flats in particular. and then that's very hard for someone to get a viewing on those properties. So it doesn't make sense to me why generation rent would push for landlords to have to pay national insurance. It doesn't benefit them. Their goal is to improve the tenant's life. But if the landlord has more costs, and most national insurance is at 8%, 6%, I think, if you're self-employed, most landlords have additional costs. If you bring those additional costs in while they're getting hammered with all this other stuff, an 8% additional cost is not insignificant. And so by doing that, you're going to push more landlords out the market. That's going to shrink the rental stock even more, meaning it's harder to get a property. Or what I think is more likely to happen is rents go up by 8%. I think rents will go up considerably more, and that's not benefiting the tenant either. And I think that if you laid this out to tenants, and you might be a tenant watching this, if your landlord's going to get an additional cost, but that cost is ultimately going to get passed on to you with higher rent, would you prefer that that didn't happen? Because this ultimately is the question that I think tenants should be considering. The generation rent goal is to look after tenants, improve the quality of their property. But if everything they're doing is making it more expensive, then that's not good. Now, I do think it's admirable, and I'm not totally against things like the Renters' Rights Bill. I do think that some landlords have terrible quality properties, and they should be held liable and fined and made to improve those properties. But I also think there's a lot of landlords that are just looking at this bill, looking at this national insurance stuff, looking at the EPC stuff, and they're just deciding they've had enough. And they might have been good landlords for decades. In fact, some of you that comment on here have been good landlords for decades, but this is just too much for you. It's too expensive. There's too much liability. There's too much risk involved in that. And so you're selling your properties and investing elsewhere, in the stock markets, in crypto, or just putting it in a high interest savings account. So this really is something that I look at and I say, this isn't a smart move by Generation Rent. Some of the things they do are good and they are helpful to tenants. Totally agree with that. But I don't think putting an extra tax when landlords already pay something called Section 24. Look that up if you're a tenant. Landlords pay Section 24 tax, which is a tax on all of their gross rent. You can deduct small things, but you can't deduct your mortgage payments. If you're any other type of business, a plumber, a baker, a restaurant, a solicitor, you can deduct all the other costs from your business. Landlords can't do that. And so they pay tax on gross income, which isn't really fair. And now you're adding an additional tax, which means they could be losing money. Ultimately, this is another crazy thing that's going to rise rents. When last year they went up 10%, this year they're going up 7%. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes through and rents go up 10% again next year. That isn't good for anyone. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do like this video, do subscribe, do also check out all the other content as well on the channel, including this video right here.